To end this segment on listening, I wanted to take one more swing at the selfishness topic. It's fitting right now since I just got done talking about pride, and pride, the destructive kind that the Bible talks about, is generally rooted in selfishness. Author and conference speaker Paul Tripp says the issues usually identified as sources of marital discord are simply locations where a deeper problem reveals itself, and that deeper problem is selfishness. All of the barriers to communication I've discussed to this point can be overcome. I've even talked about some ways to overcome them. But while techniques to improve listening skills may be simple, they are not easy. They require change. Change takes effort, and effort means doing something that's contrary to our inclinations. To do something contrary to our inclinations takes self-discipline. In biblical language, that's dying to self. To die to self, we just can't be selfish. If this sounds too hard, remember that communication is the lifeblood of any relationship, and the personal cost of the death of a relationship is probably higher than you think. So if divorce seems like the easiest option, let's count the cost by considering the following statistics. The rate of child abuse in single-parent households is nearly twice the rate of child abuse in two-parent households. 7.4% of children who live with one parent have been sexually abused versus 4.2% of children who live with both biological parents. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. That's 5 times the national average. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes, 32 times the average. 85% of all children who show behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. That's 20 times the national average. But remember, this isn't an attempt to make you feel guilty. It's just a warning. So if this makes dying to self sound better, the obvious question is, how do I do this? Jesus said to anyone who comes after him, let him deny himself. That's in 3 of the 4 Gospels. Practice in self-denial will help us to build the emotional muscle that allows us to work on our own selfishness. In my experience, a lack of self-discipline in one area of life tends to bleed over into other areas, but likewise, practice of discipline in one area of life tends to equip me for discipline in other areas. It might be one of the reasons fasting has been a practice of Christ followers throughout the centuries. Denying a legitimate physical desire in one area of our life can give us greater resolve in other areas. But more importantly than this, in each of those Gospels, Jesus makes self-denial and cross-bearing a condition of discipleship. Paul tells the Corinthian church the same thing in 2 Corinthians 5:15, quote, so that they who live might no longer live for themselves, but for him who died, unquote. This is a pointed directive from the Bible. If we claim to be one of his followers, we must be in the process of no longer living for ourselves. So if people close to you would characterize you as selfish, ask yourself if you're really following Jesus. And if you have a pattern of choosing selfishness, it may shed some light on why your close relationships are in trouble. A couple of other thoughts about this. First, in an abusive relationship, one person may be choosing selfishness, but the other accuses them of being selfish. Outside perspective can be really helpful in these kinds of situations. Second, cross-bearing speaks of enduring hardship, trial, or pain. Just like in Christian discipleship, the person who marries for life must expect to deny themselves some of the time. But note, if you have left an abusive relationship, please don't take guilt from anything I've written above. One final comment. I know a couple who had gone through the death of their 2-year-old son. Statistics for couples experiencing this kind of trauma are not good. Divorce rates can be up to 8 times the norm, according to one study. But several years later, we observed this couple one day when we visited their church, and it was easy to see that they loved each other. I asked the husband how they had beat the odds, and his advice was priceless. You just can't be selfish, he replied.